Dietitian, and welcome to Healthy Made Simple, where I show you how to make healthy eating more simple. In this video, I will be walking you through how I like to order at Chipotle. And with videos like this, my goal is to show you my thought process behind it, provide you some nutrition education regarding why I'm making the choices that I am making. I'm a firm believer that if we understand the reasoning behind why we're doing things, instead of just dietitian tells you to order this at Chipotle, understanding why the dietitian's telling you to order that, why you're making those choices, one, you're more likely to stick to it because you understand the logical reasoning behind it and how it's going to improve your health and your weight loss goals too if you're trying to lose weight. And two, it's going to help you grasp the concept so you can take the same concept and apply it to other places where you might be dining out. So you don't need a dietitian to tell you what to order at Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and this and that, but instead you understand how to look at a menu and make healthier choices. Now, anytime I'm doing a video like this, I like to add a reminder that moderation is always key when you're dining out. Now, with our family's routine, we typically tend to eat out at least once or twice a week. And we try to make healthier choices when we do that because that's part of our daily, weekly routine. Whereas you may have some restaurants or places that you like going to every once in a while. Like for us, one of our favorites is this Italian restaurant that we like going to that's a little bit further away from us. We go there maybe once or twice a year on special occasions, like when something exciting has happened to one of us or if we're celebrating something. It's not that it's a fancy, expensive restaurant, it's just that the options that they offer are not necessarily part of a healthy diet. Even though they do have healthier choices on their menu, the options I like to order there are not necessarily part of a healthy diet on a day-to-day basis. But it's part of my diet as part of my moderation, my way of finding balance in my life so that I can still include foods that bring me joy and happiness. And it's totally okay for food to do that. It's not okay to depend on food for joy and happiness, but if food brings you joy and happiness, that's perfectly normal. It's part of our routines, you know. If you think about any special occasion, anything fun, new, exciting you want to celebrate, typically some sort of a nice meal is involved because food does bring us joy. So we do have to take that into consideration. Now for me, Chipotle, I have one within walking distance of my house. So it's not a special occasion every once in a while kind of a thing for us. It's a place we order from at least once a month. So if it's a place that I'm going to eat at so regularly, I try to make healthier choices when I'm doing that versus a place maybe where I'm going to eat once a year. I'm going to pick what I want to eat there. I'm probably not going to be looking as much down to the calories and the protein and the fats and so on and so forth. I'm just going to pick what I'm going to enjoy for that special occasion. But for a regular Tuesday night, I'm going to try to make some healthier choices even if I am dining at a place like Chipotle. So that's what I want to show you today, what I typically like to order, and I always make changes depending on my mood, of course. It's not that I order the same thing every time. I do see what my mood is like, what I've eaten the rest of that day as well. If I'm having it for dinner, what did my breakfast and lunch look like? What kind of balance have I accomplished throughout the day to see what kind of choices I want to make at night. But this is one of my orders. This is kind of a common go-to. So let me walk you through that. Let me walk you through what I pick when I go to Chipotle, why I pick the things I do, so that hopefully it gives you an idea of what you can do when you go to Chipotle and try to make some healthier choices for yourself. All right, let's go. Alrighty, I'm gonna start by going to Chipotle's website. And once you pull up the website, the nice part about their website is that they make the nutrition information very readily available. Some fast food places, fast casual dining restaurants like to hide that information as down low, out of sight as possible, but Chipotle puts it right there up at the front, which helps me to believe that the choices I'm going to make here can be healthier choices. And I do absolutely believe that with Chipotle, you can definitely build some balanced meals that are going to get close to what we're aiming with all of our meals. So if you're ordering Chipotle for dinner time, let's say, lunch or dinner, anytime that you're trying to create a balanced meal for your big meals of the day, what you're aiming for is, if you imagine your plate, a circle for your plate, you're aiming for that plate to be about half vegetables ideally. Now, if getting to half vegetables is challenging, you can also do vegetables and fruits with it. But ideally, you want your plate to be about half vegetables, a quarter protein, and a quarter carbs. Now, with the protein, I say if a quarter of the plate is not enough to fill you up, you can pile on that quarter. But with the carbs, sticking to about a quarter of your plate helps really create a more balanced plate that's not going to be too carb heavy, but still going to give you the protein you need to be full and satiated, and still give you the vegetables you need to get that extra fiber in there and get those nutrients in there too. And this is exactly what I recommend for weight loss purposes too. If you're trying to lose weight, creating this sort of a balance with your plate really helps cut back on the portion sizes of maybe some other items that may be overtaking your plate. Like if you tend to have a big plate of carbs, this will help reduce your carb portion without cutting it out completely. This will help increase your protein portion if you weren't getting enough. And unfortunately, most of us don't get enough vegetables, so trying to aim for that half the plate vegetables will really help increase your vegetable intake. Now we can take that concept and apply it to Chipotle as well. And we'll click on that nutrition tab. That's where we'll get started. And from there, we'll build what we're working on as a kind of a healthier choice to a typical order at Chipotle. So let's start by clicking on that nutrition tab. And you'll see at the top, it'll give us a total of the calories that we have in our meal once we've built it, the fat, the protein, and the carbs. Now, if you've never done this before, if this is new to you, if you've never seen this feature before, I highly suggest that you check it out and put in your typical order on there, just so you have an idea of what the nutrition breakdown of your typical order would be. And you may be surprised, maybe pleasantly, maybe not so pleasantly. And I'm not a big believer in tracking calories when I'm working with my clients for weight loss. I don't require that they track every single thing they're eating and how many calories each one is. But sometimes it's very eye-opening to see the amount of calories that are actually in the food that we're eating. Sometimes we really just don't realize it until we break it down like this, because there's a lot of calories that could be added into things in maybe the butter that they use, or the sauces that they use, or the flavorings that they use, or the way that it was cooked and prepared, where it may look like a healthier option, but it might not be. So seeing that number helps, and putting kind of a value to that number and comparing that to what you need in a typical day helps too. So for example, if you're aiming for 2,000 calories in a day and you find that your dinner option is 1,000 calories, that should get you to think, should I be consuming 50% of my calories for the day at 8 p.m. at night when I'm going to bed at 10 p.m.? Do I have enough time left in my day to burn those 1,000 calories? And that'll get you to start thinking. If you are trying to lose weight and you're struggling, start thinking about these concepts, because it'll help you understand where the breakdown might be in what you're doing. Okay? So don't have to track calories, but take a look to see how what you're eating compares to where you should typically be at with your daily calorie and other nutrition intake, macronutrient intake. All right. So let's look at the different options here. As we all know, Chipotle carries burritos, burrito bowls, lifestyle bowls, quesadillas, salads, tacos, sides and drinks, and of course the kids' meal. From these options, the one that I always go to when I'm trying to make a healthier choice is the salad versus the burrito or the burrito bowl. I used to be a big believer in the burrito bowls. Personally, I try to stay away from the burrito, and that's typically what I suggest as well, unless burrito is something that you're just craving, you haven't had in a long time, then go for it. But if you're trying to lose weight, the burrito tends to be very heavy in carbohydrates just because of that giant tortilla in there, plus you're adding rice in there, plus you have some starchy vegetables like beans in there too, you have your legumes. So if you look at the breakdown, burritos are about 50 grams of carbs. So just be mindful of that. Maybe if you're going to have a burrito, have it earlier in the day so your body has time to burn through all those carbs, or maybe have the other half later, just to create a little bit of a better balance. A burrito bowl is definitely a better option because you're taking out that tortilla and instead you have the better rice. But I find that the better rice and the amount of vegetables and protein in there definitely does not fit within that balance of the quarter of the plate carbs that we're going for. It's definitely going to be more than quarter of your plate being carbs. So in order to find that right balance, that's where I think the salad really comes into play. The salad actually does come with rice in it. I used to avoid it thinking that the salad didn't come with rice and I was just going to eat a bed of greens, but there is rice in there. And it's in a much smaller portion, closer to that quarter of the plate that we talk about. So a much better balanced meal compared to the other options. The other thing I like about the salad is that it gives you dark green leafy greens. Whereas with the burrito bowl, the burritos, you're going to get that shredded lettuce in there. But with the salad, you're going to get like big pieces of the spinach, the dark leafy greens in there, which is of course higher nutrition value, is higher in iron as well. So it's a better source of fiber too. So incorporating that is definitely helpful when you're getting a meal together that's going to be to go. All right. And of course, if we look at the other options, the lifestyle bowls I've never ordered. I personally like being able to pick out my own options and build a meal the way I like it. The lifestyle bowls come ready to set. I believe they're not bad options. So if that's something you want to consider, go for it. But if you like the build your own mentality of Chipotle, the salad is probably the best way to go. So let's work on building that salad. All right. Now, when I do the salad, just as my base, it's already coming at me with the amount of calories, the fat, the protein, and the carbs up there. But as we go through, it'll update it as we make choices. Now, it's going to come with that romaine lettuce in there, and then you can see at the top, it also comes with baby kale and baby spinach too, for some dark leafy greens. And then now let's move on to the protein. And this is what I love about this nutrition calculator here, because you can actually compare all the different options and see what you want to do and see how it compares in terms of their calorie content, their fat content, their protein content. Now, if we look at the protein options here, if you just look at which one is the highest protein option. Obviously, you're going to go straight to the chicken here. The chicken is the highest protein option here, and it's one of the lowest ones when it comes to fat. Now, you'd be surprised to see that the steak is pretty close in comparison. It's less protein for the similar amount of calories and similar amount of fat, but it's not that huge of a difference. So I do go for the chicken on a regular basis. That's my go-to. That is the leanest protein that they have. That's the lowest in fat. It's a decent amount of calories. It's not over the top with calories. And honestly, none of the protein options really are. They all kind of stay within the same range. But what I'm mainly looking for is how I can limit the fat here while maximizing the number of protein. And of course, we don't want to go high on the carbs for a protein option. And the carbs, of course, is going to come from any sort of a sauce or dressing it might have. That's where those carbs are going to come from. So if you're trying to be healthier, if you're trying to lose weight, chicken really is the best bet to go. If you're not in the mood for chicken, you don't like chicken, steak really is not a bad option here. So you can definitely go for the steak, or you can go for the barbacoa as well. But if you're trying to lose weight, I would probably try to limit the pollo asado and the carnitas and the sofritas and the new one that they have, chicken al pastor. Just because of the fat content of these options that are going to be, 10 grams or above for the fat. So, on that note though, on this particular day, I'm not as concerned about fat. Actually had a lower fat breakfast and lunch the day of. So I'm not as concerned about cutting on my fat. I still want to do chicken. I was in the mood for chicken, and I tried this chicken al pastor last time, and it was really good. It's a new option that they have. It's spicy. You'll see it's a little bit higher in fat because it does have some sort of a dressing sauce on it, I believe. And that's where these carbs are coming from too. But you still got the protein. It's a little bit higher in calorie. I was okay with doing that because I knew I was going to balance it out with everything else that I was doing, not only just for this meal, but for the rest of the day as well. But if you are trying to lose weight, I say go for just the regular good old chicken. Okay. Now let's move on to rice. And this is where you'll see there is not a huge difference between the white and brown rice. The brown rice is surprisingly a little bit higher in fat, a little bit lower in carbs, probably taking account the fact that it's got fiber added to it. not added to it, but naturally is naturally higher in fiber brown rice. So that helps kind of cut back on the net carbs if that's what they're looking at. But in terms of nutritional content, really not that big of a difference between white and brown rice. So go for whatever feels good to you, whatever you enjoy doing. If you can pick brown rice, you enjoy brown rice. If you are indifferent to either option, then I'd go for the brown rice just because it's slightly more nutritious. Really not that big of a difference though. But if brown rice isn't for you, you're worried about the arsenic content maybe, then you can go for the white rice. Same with beans. Look at these two options. Really not that big of a difference. Oh, I did make my choice for myself though. I'm going to go for brown rice because I just enjoy brown rice. Personally, I prefer the taste of their brown rice to their white rice. So I'm going to go for brown rice. Okay, moving on to beans. Now with beans, you can see they're very similar in terms of their nutritional content. Pretty much the same, except that pinto beans is 1 gram less carbs. So what that means is pick what you want. I suggest including beans if you can. If you like beans, you enjoy beans, include them as part of your meal. Don't skip out on it because it's another source of protein to be added on to your meal to keep it more filling. So I do suggest going for one of the beans. If you're not a huge fan of beans, you can also go light. That's the one nice part about Chipotle is it's very customizable, so you can go for a light option. If you like both, you can do half-half. Either option works, but definitely include some sort of a bean with your meal. I personally am a fan of black beans, so I'm going to go for the black beans. All right, now let's go for all the toppings that are going to go on there. Now, some of these are really nutritionally very minimal, so feel free to add them on as you wish. In terms of the guacamole, now guacamole is going to be higher in fat because it's made with avocados, which are a source of healthy fats, right? But since we are incorporating all this additional fat from guacamole, if you do choose to do guacamole, definitely make sure you're picking a protein that's going to be one of those lower fat proteins to help balance that out. Now guacamole is something I personally don't like to add on myself, but if you do like it, then go for it. In terms of the other ones, the tomato salsa, very minimal nutritionally. Feel free to add on as much of this as you like. With the corn, you're going to get a little higher calorie content because corn is a starchier vegetable, and that's where these carbs are going to come from as well. But again, it's a vegetable. It's a corn salsa, so add it on if you like it. Always adding more vegetables helps. The vegetables don't just have to be the greens that are the bed of your meal. You know, it can be the other things you add on, like the corn you sprinkle on, the tomato salsa you sprinkle on. All these things count towards your vegetables. So add it on, add some variety in there, add in different flavors in there to make it a little bit more of an exciting, interesting meal. All right, so I do go for the corn salsa. And then these other medium and hot salsas, nutritionally, go for it. No real thing stopping you there in terms of portion control. It's just a matter of how spicy you like your food. And to me, these two are too spicy and I end up just having my mouth burning the whole time. Now looking at the rest of these options, the fajita veggies are another vegetable that I always suggest adding on. Adds more extra veggies, different types of veggies. You're going to get bell peppers in there, you're going to get onion in there. Bell peppers are a really nice source of vitamin C, so always good to just tack them on, add them on, sprinkle them on with your meals to add in that extra nutritional value. And then in terms of these the rest of the dairy items that are left, I got the sour cream, the cheese, and the queso blanco. And you can see nutritionally they're all pretty similar. Now, if you're thinking about adding some sort of a dairy on top like this, adding some cheese or cream or some queso, I suggest picking one and going light on it. That's personally what I like to do for myself. One, because I'm lactose intolerant, so that much dairy is too much dairy for me. Two, you can see it's going to add a decent amount of calories for a very small portion that you're going to add on. If you think about how much sour cream, well, sometimes they do pile on the sour cream. I will give them that. But the amount that's going to go on compared to the size of your meal, that's a decent amount of calories that you're adding on there. So what I like to do is either pick sour cream, cheese, or queso blanco, one of those options, and pick the light option for it. If you're trying to lose weight and you want to incorporate it, that's what I would suggest. If you can go without it, even better, because the nice part about the salad is that it comes with this chipotle honey vinaigrette. And it's actually a really yummy vinaigrette. I don't use the whole thing. It comes in a really big container, and I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit later. So I don't end up using the whole thing, but it's really delicious. So you do have that as an option to sprinkle on. But if you look at the nutritional content, the vinaigrette really isn't that much healthier than the sour cream, the cheese, and the queso. So if you think to yourself, you know what, instead of the vinaigrette, I'd rather just have some sour cream, then do that. Or if you think, you know what, I'll just sprinkle some vinaigrette on, I just want like a little light sprinkle of cheese just to add some cheese flavor in there, go for it. But find that balance so that you're not just blindly adding on sour cream, cheese, queso, just because that's what naturally goes in a salad or a bowl like this, but thinking about how you're balancing it out with everything else that you have going within that plate. So personally, from these options, I like sour cream. And I do go light on the sour cream because otherwise it's just too much for me. And I do like the chipotle vinaigrette on the side, and I definitely don't end up using all of it. So I won't get to this 945 calories because right now it's taking into account that I'm eating this whole 220 cal from the vinaigrette. All right. And then of course the rest of this is going to be the sides. Now let's look at the top. Let's look at how this meal turned out. I did a salad with the chicken al pastor, brown rice, black beans, the fresh tomato salsa, the roasted chili corn salsa, light sour cream, and the fajita veggies, and the chipotle honey vinaigrette. And I ended up with 945 calories with 41 grams of fat, 41 grams of protein, and 107 grams of carbs. Now this is a huge meal for me. Typically don't eat 900 calorie meals for myself, but honestly the portion size of this is probably 2 portions for me. Typically when I eat it, I'm only eating about half, maybe if I'm really hungry, like 2/3, but to me that's a big portion size. So those numbers don't look so scary to me because I know that I'm not going to be eating the whole portion. So if I'm looking at about half of this, then we're looking for about a 500 calorie meal with about 20 grams of fat, with about 20 grams of protein, and about 50 grams of carbs. And that sounds a lot more balanced to me. And keep in mind, I didn't make all the healthiest choices. You know, I did pick that chicken al pastor instead of just regular chicken. I do have that vinaigrette on the side that is not going to be eaten completely. I did add in some extra sour cream, some light sour cream. So if you were making just the basic healthiest options, you're going to get a meal that's going to be lower in calories, lower in fat, and lower in carbs. But you do want to keep that protein number as high as possible. So this is what my meal turned out like. You can see on there it's the salad with the al pastor, the vinaigrette, the lettuce, the brown rice, fajitas, black beans, tomato, corn salsa, and the light sour cream. So I'll show you what that turned out like. You'll see the vinaigrette cup on the side, and this was my meal. You can see I have that light sour cream on the top, lots and lots of veggies in there, a decent amount of protein in there as well. And I'm gonna sprinkle that vinaigrette over the top, and it is a large container, so I use maybe about 1/3 of it as I'm sprinkle it just to add more moisture to the meal. So that it all blends in together nicely. And it was nice to be able to build this on that nutrition calculator and to see what the portion size was going to look like and what the calorie breakdown was going to be like as well, because as you can see, this is a large portion. So just like I mentioned earlier, I ended up eating half of this for dinner, and then I saved the other half for the next. And it was nice to be able to validate that with that nutrition calculator, because that showed that this was going to be about 2 portion sizes for me, and that's for my personal nutritional needs. Doesn't mean it's the same for everyone, but for my size, my height, my age, and where I'm at with my weight, this is what worked for me. So I suggest that you find what works for you. So keep that in mind. Do this for whatever meal that you typically order to see how your numbers might compare to a salad. Maybe you'll put in your burrito order and the numbers will come out just as similar, and you'll think to yourself, wow, why am I eating a salad if I could eat a burrito? But we do know there are other benefits of eating the amount of vegetables that are going to come with a salad like this, besides just the calorie, the fat, the protein, and the carbs. Of course, it's good to look at those numbers because, you know, it's an objective way of measuring what we're putting in our body. But we also have to look at the other nutritional benefits from eating more vegetables, eating more whole grains, getting more fiber in there, eating leaner meats. The benefits of that in terms of helping prevent diseases, especially chronic diseases, helping to maintain a healthier lifestyle, helping to avoid crashes in energy levels and feeling better, more energized, more fueled throughout the day. So you do have to take those into consideration. And you know, if you find that nutritionally, maybe what you're eating is very similar to a salad, think about how you feel after the fact. After I eat the salad, I feel great. I feel full and satiated, but not overly uncomfortably full. I feel it keeps me full for the next couple hours until I go to bed. I've never had the salad and gone to bed on a hungry, empty stomach before. Because it's a good portion size for me personally. So you have to take that into consideration too. You have to take into consideration how it makes you feel afterwards. Do you feel good, or do you feel like it's just too filling? Maybe you eat that burrito and all that carb, it doesn't sit well with you and you have this like energy crash afterwards and you don't feel good. So maybe it's not just the calories at that point, that maybe what it is, what you're getting for the amount of calories makes a difference too. So take that all into consideration the next time you're putting in your order. I hope this kind of gave you ideas of how you can order when it comes to Chipotle. And I hope you do give that nutrition tab a try. I think it's a really cool tool to be able to use to get a better idea of what you're putting in your body. It's always good to be educated about what you're putting in your body. Doesn't mean that you should fall into the fear mongering that's out there of scaring yourself of this is toxic and that is toxic. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean just being conscious of what you're eating and understanding the decisions you're making. Okay? Hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave comments down below, and I'd be happy to answer along the way. If you have any other restaurants or places you like to go to where you want me to do another walkthrough like this and walk through the menu and show you how I would order, I would love to do that. So leave a comment down below and tell me which one you would like me to try out next, and I'd be happy to do that. Thanks again for staying tuned with my videos on healthy eating and how to make it more simple for you, hopefully. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please be on the lookout for more videos from me. And please hit that subscribe button to help my channel grow so that I can hopefully continue to make these videos. Thanks again. Thanks for staying tuned, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.